Hello and welcome. This is Aretha. Today, let's talk about two simple ideas we can implement to reduce resistance and make it easier for us to change our behavior and change our habits. It is well documented that as humans, we have a negativity bias. We focus on what is wrong as a way to protect ourselves. The problem is that we don't really turn this off. So even when we're not in danger, we still focus on what's negative. Think about how we focus on the bad things we want to remove from our lives. We hyper focus on what we perceive as bad behaviors, bad habits, bad choices. And here I would like to put the word bad in quotations because we often assign morality to things that are not intrinsically good or bad, right or wrong. But by thinking constantly about the things we dislike and how hard it will be to get rid of them, we are creating a certain amount of resistance. And it starts to feel like an uphill battle before we even start anything. So, what I would like to propose is that instead of focusing on fixing something we think is bad, we instead switch our focus on building something we enjoy. So, the first idea I'd like to share is that instead of focusing so much on removing the bad, we focus on adding more of the good. Instead of fighting with yourself to remove the things you no longer want to do, think about what you would like to do instead. And then try to add this desired behavior to your life. A somewhat obvious example is when it comes to nutrition. If you want to eat better, you may be tempted to start trying to remove all the processed foods. And that's a great goal, but it's hard to achieve. So instead of focusing on never having junk or processed food again, maybe you can focus on adding more of what you consider desirable foods. So maybe you try to have more vegetables and more protein. And you may find that if you start with the more nutritious foods, you simply have less appetite for the processed junk. Similarly, if you want to be more productive and spend your time on more important things, you should start adding those things to your calendar. So if you want to do less scrolling and more reading, you should focus on the second part and start reading more. And you may find that you simply have less time for scrolling. The main idea here is that you only have so much capacity, so much time, and so much bandwidth. If you fill up all your resources with the desirable things you want more of, you will simply have less room for anything else. And the undesirable things will just fall off. But this advice applies to so many areas of our lives, not just our habits and behaviors. If you have several pleasant and happy interactions throughout the day, receiving one random negative comment will not sting as much because it will only be a tiny drop in the sea of positivity that you've experienced all day. This advice may seem obvious, but it's not really how we approach our lives. We have this idea that in order to make room for something good, we have to remove all the bad. And so we focus really hard on removing the bad, and we encounter a bunch of resistance in the process. But if we start by adding the positive things we want, things will reconfigure themselves and push out anything that we don't want to sustain. And the second idea I'd like to share is that when it comes to the things you want to do less of, you should delay, not deny. If there's something you want to have less of or do less of, then when you're tempted to engage in those activities, tell yourself that you can do that later. Psychologically, it is really hard to tell yourself that you can never have or do something you used to have or do all the time. Delaying undesirable behavior is a lot easier to handle than telling yourself that you will never engage in it again. It just doesn't create the same amount of resistance. And anything we do to remove friction also increases our chances of success. One thing I really love to say is that we should work with ourselves, not against ourselves. And also, by minimizing resistance, we actually make the process of getting what we want a lot more enjoyable and therefore sustainable. So if we think about our productivity example from earlier, if you want to spend less time scrolling, try delaying it by inserting an activity you'd like to do instead. Tell yourself that you can scroll in 15 minutes, but you will read your book first. Chances are that once you start reading your book, you'll get so into it that you'll forget all about scrolling for a bit. And going back to the food example, if you're craving something that you would like to not have as much, try telling yourself that you can have it later. So a personal example of a nutrition and food related habit that I'm trying to break is that I would like to stop grabbing a sugary treat at 3 p.m. Every day around 3 p.m., like clockwork, I feel the need to go grab some kind of a sugary snack. And I think this is due to a combination of factors. Around 3 p.m. is when my energy levels drop. And so craving a sugary snack is a way for my body to try to get some energy. But also at 3 p.m. is when I realize I'm 2 hours away from being done with my workday. And if I haven't accomplished as much as I would have liked to by 3 o'clock, then I feel under pressure to get it all done by 5. Feeling like I am under pressure and I'm running out of time makes me really uncomfortable. And the immediate solution I can think of is eating something sweet to temporarily feel better. But the reality is that that doesn't solve my problems. And so I would like to find a better way to deal with the 3 p.m. cravings. This is something I'm still working on. But when the 3 p.m. cravings start, I tell myself that I will wait 20 minutes before I grab a snack. And during those 20 minutes, I do something else that helps me process the uncomfortable feelings. If you've followed me for a while, then you know that journaling is one of my favorite tools. I grab a notepad and start writing, free writing everything I'm thinking, downloading all my feelings, all my thoughts, and what I'm worried about. And I'll write for 10-15 minutes straight. And sometimes just brain dumping onto the page makes me feel instantly better. Sometimes in the process of free writing, my immediate next step becomes very clear. And so I have this burst of energy to go after it and immediately start working on that task so I can eliminate it. And usually once I get on a roll, I never think about the snack again. If free writing is not doing the trick or I don't really feel like doing it, I'll go for a quick walk. Walk around the building if I'm at work, take a lap in the neighborhood if I'm at home, and usually I come back feeling much refreshed. More often than not, 20 minutes in, I no longer feel the same pull towards what I'm craving, and I can usually just ignore it and keep working. But if I'm having a really terrible day and after doing all of those things, I still desperately want that treat, then I will have it. What I'm after is progress, not perfection. And if 3 or 4 days out of 5 I don't have that snack, that is progress towards what I want. Creating more space between the trigger and the undesirable action will give you an opportunity to make a different choice. If you combine delaying the things you would like to avoid and adding more of the things you want to enjoy, you can slowly change your habits without being overly rigid with yourself. You will create less resistance and make the change process a lot more enjoyable. And that will make it that much more sustainable. I really like getting feedback on the things that resonate with you. So if this video does, please leave a comment and give me a thumbs up. And for more videos like this, remember to subscribe.